Hey Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. I'm your host Adrianna. Let's go ahead and get right into it because the Giants take on the Denver Broncos in Colorado on Sunday. The game is at 4:05, which is kind of nice, maybe, that we have a little bit of a later game. And supposedly Mile High is a very difficult stadium to play in, so we'll see how that goes for the Giants. But today what I want to do is I want to talk through the wide receiver targets because this has been obviously a very big conversation with Malik Nabers being out and now it being a normal long week before we get to Sunday's game. I want to talk about the edge rushers on both teams because they are going to be, I think, the stars of the show come Sunday. And then lastly, we have to talk about the Broncos O-line because that is going to be a struggle for the Broncos and an opportunity for the Giants to take advantage. So let's go ahead and get right into the wide receiver targets. Now, today's Wednesday. I'm recording this earlier on because the injury report does not come out until later this afternoon. So tomorrow we're going to get into the injury report. We don't have an update yet on Darius Slayton. Dable has not spoken to the media yet, so we don't know whether or not he's going to practice today, and if so, in what capacity. So we'll find that out later this afternoon and go from there. But I have a couple reasons as to why I don't think the Giants are going to do anything about the wide receiver position. And I think the fact that Tuesday is usually the workout day, that they didn't make any roster moves to sign anyone outside of adding Juice Wells back to the practice squad. I don't think they're bringing in a wide receiver. And I know like all the discourse around Giants fans is like Jacoby Myers and Chris Olave, and maybe they should trade for, I've heard like all sorts of different names out there, but there are a couple things we have to consider. Number one, the Giants are not proactive. I'm sure that everyone has realized this at some point, but a perfect example, because this has happened more than once, the roster mismanagement is a gigantic gripe of mine that I have with this front office staff over the last couple of years, is that they don't do anything until it becomes a problem, and then they are forced to do something. For example, before the Saints game, you lose Malik Nabers, but instead of elevating little Jordan Humphrey, no, we're going to stick with our wide receivers. We're going to force Bo Collins out there, who's a UDFA, who under normal circumstances would not be getting any snaps, and we're going to try and force Jalen Hyatt to make a play. And guess what? Not only did Darius Slayton, who was supposed to be the most reliable receiver on the field that day, get injured, then you had to play Bo Collins and Jalen Hyatt, who not only were useless, allowed 2 interceptions to go on this Giants offense and Jackson Dart. So anyway, instead of saying, let's elevate little Jordan Humphrey, when not only do we have the cap space, but we also have the roster spots, because I don't know if you guys know this, they went into the Saints game with only 51 players on the roster instead of 53. So didn't elevate little Jordan Humphrey. Learned the hard way. Oh, maybe Bo Collins isn't ready for this. Darius Slayton's now out on a short week. And Jalen Hyatt, I don't know about. So now we're finally going to elevate little Jordan Humphrey. And they do it. And oh my God, it worked. He was helpful. What a concept. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is they really believe in these guys. It's why they didn't elevate little Jordan Humphrey. It's why they're only bringing guys back that know the playbook at this point. Little Jordan Humphrey was here all summer. He knows the playbook. He knows that the front office knows that he's a reliable target for Jackson Dart. Okay, they can elevate him. They added Juice Wells back to the practice squad. Where was Juice Wells this summer? With the Giants. Spent the whole summer playing with his buddy from Ole Miss, Jackson Dart. So they're picking guys and keeping ones that already know this so-called very difficult offense to learn under Brian Dable, and that's who they're using. That's who they're keeping. So they believe in these guys. They think they're going to help them win. So they're not bringing in a wide receiver this week. And the last thing is that they don't typically trade for anyone during the season, and they're not really in a position to. At the end of the day, they are 2-4, and this team is everything but consistent. So unless they go out there on Sunday and they beat the Broncos, I don't see them making any changes for wide receiver. I think if they beat the Broncos, the front office is maybe going to say, okay, maybe we have a chance of going a little bit further this year than we did. Is it crazy to start talking about playoffs if they beat the Broncos? Yes, they only have 3 wins, but you have to help develop your young quarterback. You need to help give him players that are going to help him improve and get better, and know that if he's going to throw with anticipation, which is something that Jackson Dart does really well with, that those guys are going to be in the right place and they're going to be reliable for him. Unlike what we saw at a Bo Collins, unlike what we saw at a Jalen Hyatt before the Eagles game. So Plus this Broncos defense is a lot better than the Eagles defense. So anyway, I don't think the Giants are going after a wide receiver, especially not this week. I like some guys on the Saints. I think Raheem Shaheed has a lot of talent. I think he would be a great option. He's still on a younger contract, I believe. So him, Olave could be a good option. Like I said, I don't think that they're going after anyone at this point. And again, maybe next week things will be different, but Joe Shane has proven that his trades come in the offseason, not during the regular season. So I would be surprised if they do anything. Could they pick up Isaiah Hodgins off of the Niners practice squad? Absolutely. That would be the least shocking move that they could make outside of elevating Juice Wells on Sunday. Because like I said, he's been with the Giants. He's won games with them. He was a reliable target for Daniel Jones, and he knows the playbook. Dable knows him. They were together in Buffalo. I think that's the most likely scenario where if they have issues with the wide receivers on Sunday, or like they make enough plays to win, but they feel like they really need the help to bolster it. Let's say Darius Slayton's not back. Then I could see them signing Isaiah Hodgins. I'd be surprised, like I said, if they go ahead and make a trade, but you never know. With that being said, I want to move over to the defensive side of the ball because we all know Brian Burns. We know Kayvon Thibodeau. We know Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence. These guys are going to have an opportunity to really feast on Sunday, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But for those of you who are unfamiliar, the Broncos defense is damn good. I don't know what happened against the Jets game. Like the Giants, it's like what happened against the Saints game. Like they play great football and, the Broncos have one more win than we do. Or I guess, are they 4-2 at this point? It doesn't matter. They have more wins than the Giants and they have a better defense than the Giants. So that is something that I think we're really going to have to focus on. The Broncos defense have 30 sacks. They are leading the league in sacks. They have been unbelievable this year. Now, when you have 9 sacks against Justin Fields and the Jets, that obviously helps. So, if we were playing the Jets this year, or we were playing the Titans, or we were playing, one of the worst teams in the league, I'm sure Brian Burns would have a lot more sacks than he does right now. So that helps. But the thing about the Broncos is even though Benito is a star and he has 8 sacks, Brian Burns is right behind him at 7. The Broncos defense having 30 sacks, they have double-digit players who have all contributed to that. So, we complain a lot about Bowen. And one of the complaints that I have about Bowen is that all summer, I talked about how when I was at training camp, I saw Drew Phillips being used on the blitz. I saw Javon Holland. I saw Bobby O. I saw linebackers, safeties, corners. They were mixing it up and using different players to blitz the quarterback instead of always using the edge rushers. That's what the Broncos are doing. And guess what? It's working pretty damn good for them with 30 sacks. So I need the Giants and Shane Bowen. You have to start doing that. We saw it all summer. Why are you not doing that? And this is the week to blitz. So with that being said, I want to get into the issues that the Broncos are having with their offensive line. So I don't know if you guys know this, but our beloved Matt Pert, who was an absolutely awful tackle for the New York Giants, horrible draft pick, what else is new? Goes on to Denver. Honestly, they moved him to guard. He was not great. Didn't have a good showing, had a couple holding calls on Sunday, and then ended up getting injured. But because they were missing their starting left guard due to injury, Matt Pert was the starter. So now they're on to their 3rd string left guard. So on the depth chart, they have Alex Palsuski, and they just made some roster moves. So they moved Matt Pert, dealing with his injury, over to IR, and then they went ahead and signed Calvin Throckmorton. That's a name. So let's talk a little about him. This is directly from the Broncos. So they signed offensive lineman Carson Barnhart and defensive end Garrett Nelson. Okay, so this is to the practice squad. Then they moved tackle Matt Pert and one of their linebackers to IR, and then they got rid of someone else. So let's talk about Calvin Throckmorton, again, crazy name, who is now going to be one of their guards. So they moved him over to the active roster. So I don't know if that means that he's going to start over Alex Palczewski, who is their starting left guard now on the depth chart. This guy could just be a backup. But the reality is they have a third string guard starting, whether it is this guy, Alex, or it is the other guy that they added to the to the roster today. There's still some question marks there. So this is an opportunity for the edge rushers, for Dexter Lawrence and Nacho and Roy Robertson Harris and everyone else who's playing on that interior. This is your chance to bulk up your stats. Abdul Carter, for the love of God, get that first sack this week. Blitz right by that left guard. I really want to see Bowen take advantage of this week. We saw him do a little bit against the Chargers, right? We saw him turn it up a little bit when they started losing offensive linemen by the snap, and then they were down to some backups, and the Giants had a game where they had a lot of sacks. That needs to happen again this week. This is the week to do it. And Sean Payton is a smart guy. You know that he's going to get that ball out real quick, and he's going to give Justin Herbert every opportunity to succeed, get rid of the ball quickly so he doesn't get mauled by any one of our defensive linemen or edge rushers. But this has to be the opportunity where you can breeze right by that guy, where you can breeze through whoever that left guard is, because he's obviously not as good as the starter. And, when you're coming in with a backup like that, we've all seen what happens. We saw it against the Chargers, and as Giants fans, we have witnessed this year after year after year, that the second and third string are nowhere near as good as the starter. So I really want to see the Giants defense. Please take advantage of that, Shane Bowen. Blitz, throw stuff at Bo Nix. He's still a young quarterback. Yes, he's got a good coach, but now he's got a hole at the offensive line. And this is an opportunity to throw some different looks his way, like Vance Joseph is going to do to Jackson Dart. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. But Shane Bowen, please just take advantage of this. The fact that the players already had a defensive players only meeting, and then they went back to Shane Bowen and were like, you have to let us be more aggressive. Guess what? It worked last week. Do it again this week. That's really what I want to see from the defense. Take advantage of the fact that you have a third string guard out there and utilize it to your advantage. Like I said, tomorrow we're going to get into how the Giants offense is going to take on this Denver defense. It's going to be tough, but the Giants hopefully can find a way to do it. Stay tuned.